All right, today we're diving into something a little different, dark psychology. And let's be clear, this isn't your typical self-help guide. Think of this as self-defense. We're not here to make you feel good, we're here to make you aware.
So let's get right into it. The source material for this makes a point right from the beginning. Forget all the positive thinking stuff for a minute. This is a user's manual. It's about getting under the hood to see the mechanics of psychological manipulation, the side of human nature we usually don't like to talk about. I mean, really think about that for a second. This is the whole reason this topic is so important. It's about recognizing that moment when you realize someone else's voice, their intentions, have kind of taken up residence in your own mind without you ever handing over the keys. You see, in just about every interaction we have, there's a kind of hidden script, unseen rules and power dynamics that are always in play. The first step to not being a pawn in someone else's game is just realizing that the game exists.
And that's the key right there. The stuff isn't some kind of magic spell. Manipulation works because it cleverly sidesteps our logical brain and goes straight for our emotions. Things like fear, guilt, our desire to be liked. It's so effective because it feels incredibly personal.
So let's open up the manipulator's toolkit. We're going to start with the subtle, everyday weapons, the kind of stuff you might run into at work or even with family, without ever knowing you're in the middle of a psychological chess match.
Oh, this one is a classic. Someone does something nice for you, maybe something you didn't even ask for, and it feels like a genuine gift, right? But it's not. It's an investment. An invisible IOU gets created in your head, and you can be sure they've got a long memory and will show up to collect, usually at the worst possible time for you.
And boom, there it is. That's the sound of the emotional bill arriving at your table. That single phrase is designed to make you feel like a terrible, ungrateful person. It instantly puts you on the defensive and turns a past kindness into a weapon to control what you do right now.
This one is really insidious because it turns you into your own jailer. They don't have to directly control you because they make you feel so guilty or ashamed that you start controlling yourself. You start walking on eggshells, constantly trying to manage their emotions for them.
Okay, now we're moving up a level. We're going from subtle emotional nudges to really deliberate, psychologically damaging tactics. These are designed to make you question the very ground you're standing on.
Gaslighting is like a slow, quiet poison. The goal isn't just to win an argument. It's to make you believe that your own mind is unreliable. It's a steady erosion of your self-trust until you start to depend on their version of reality more than your own.
And that line, that is the gaslighter's anthem. It's a 1-2 punch. First, they flat out deny your reality. Then, they attack your emotional state for even bringing it up. So they're not just saying you're wrong, they're saying you're crazy for even thinking it.
And make no mistake, this is a systematic process. It starts small, just denying little things you know happened. Then, they start picking at your memory. Are you sure you remember that right? Over time, that constant doubt wears you down until you hit that final step. You're completely dependent on them to tell you what's real.
Think of this as a kind of psychological judo move. They do something wrong, you call them out on it, and somehow, by the end of the conversation, you're the one apologizing. They are masters at flipping the script, so their bad behavior was just a reaction to your mistake.
See, this is a perfect example. The responsibility for them yelling is now your fault. Their lack of self-control is somehow on you. You're no longer the person who got yelled at. You're the person who caused the yelling. It's brilliant in a really terrible way.
All right, this is the end game. These techniques aren't just about getting their way in the moment. This is about achieving total isolation and control. This is how they build the emotional cage, and the scary part is, they often build it to look like a safe harbor.
Look, a person with a strong support system is almost impossible to control. Manipulators know this. So their first big strategic objective is always to cut you off from your friends, your family, anyone who might pull you aside and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. They need their voice to be the only one you trust. And listen to how they frame it. It all sounds so protective, doesn't it? It creates this little us against the world bubble. But every single one of those phrases is just another brick in the wall they're building around you, cutting you off and making you completely dependent on them.
And now we come to the emotional roller coaster. This is a very deliberate technique. You get these intense highs, overwhelming affection, praise, love bombing, and then, without warning, a sudden drop into freezing coldness and silence.
It's not random, it's a pattern, and it's incredibly addictive. And that right there is the twisted genius of it. The emotional whiplash creates this incredibly powerful, trauma-based bond. It's like a slot machine. You get so desperate for the jackpot of the good times, you're willing to endure all the losses, all the crushing lows, just to get that high one more time.
And this cycle shows you exactly how the trap works. It starts with that honeymoon phase, all the love and affection that gets you hooked. But then the tension starts to build. You're walking on eggshells. After the inevitable explosion, the cycle resets with reconciliation, the apologies, the promises to change, which pull you right back into the honeymoon phase. And here's the most important part. The good times aren't a break from the abuse, they are a fundamental part of the trap.
Okay, we've spent some time walking through some pretty dark territory. So now, let's talk about the way out. The ultimate defense against all of this isn't some clever trick or a counter tactic. It's actually much simpler and much more powerful.
This is really the whole point. Just understanding these patterns, being able to put a name to them, that is incredibly empowering. Yeah, it can hurt to realize what's happening, but once you see it, you can't unsee it, and that knowledge is the key that unlocks the cage door.
So if awareness is your shield, these actions are your sword. First, just recognize that a game is even being played. Then, trust your gut. That little feeling in your stomach that something is off, it's usually right. Document things, not to argue with them, but to anchor yourself in reality. Learn to set firm boundaries and say no without feeling guilty. And maybe most importantly, stop apologizing when you haven't done anything wrong. That's how you start taking your power back.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. The point of knowing all this isn't to make you paranoid. It's to make you conscious. Once you can see the hidden script, once you can see the strings, you get to decide if you still want to play a part. You get to decide who's in control. Because the power to walk off that stage has been yours all along.